That's Angela. Hold on. I know my piano the music doesn't sound very good when you will just play softly. I have QRS player system in my piano, so it will play anything you would like to hear. I got some good news. Amidst the hope, the gloom and doom that we've been having, the bombing, COVID, it's been a hard year. Most everybody. I can't say it was a horrible year for us, but it wasn't a good year. I cried all Christmas Day, but I'm sure a lot of people had reason to cry all Christmas and the holidays. My sister-in-law sent me their guidelines for their holiday meal in Los Angeles. They could only have 6 people. They had to wear their masks, do social distancing. They had to eat outside. That won't work here in Oregon. We'd have frozen turkey. So, hello, Brooks. Apple Brooks, hello. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here. I have some things I want to share, and I'm sure you want to hear them. And then maybe later tonight, my husband will talk about his bout with oral cancer, deadly cancer. He shouldn't have lived through it. He was given a 5% chance to live. And that was back in 1985. And it's been one heck of a ride. Hello, Brooks. Apple Brooks. Thank you for coming. I'm sure some more will come in. I'm going to turn this music off. I don't like jazz. Some do, some don't. But anyway, let me turn that off. You can enjoy the fire. Our fire here. It's nice and warm. I love music. Don't like jazz. Okay, now we got quiet. I'm just learning how to play, so. Ooh, and I'm hot. Hot, hot, hot. Ooh, this light. Let me shut this light off here. maybe you can see the fire a little bit better. Well, I'd like to know, did everybody have a nice Christmas? Probably not. But we're alive, those that are listening. But I know some with the COVID have had some horrible times. I was looking at Zab Girl, and one of the girls, Bridget, had COVID and it gave her a stroke. I know 3 other people that had a stroke from COVID. One of the gals from our church, Lisa McGuire, she married a longtime friend of ours, David McGuire. She's from the Philippines. Wonderful, wonderful woman. And she's been helping me with my housework, and a good friend. And I enjoy having her. And she was going down to Covina a lot down in Los Angeles. And we're in Oregon. And her husband, Dave, she's 60 or 55 and much younger than Dave, her husband Dave. And her sister died a few days, 2 weeks ago, about a week before Christmas. Her sister had the COVID and she died of a stroke. Very young woman, healthy Filipino. And then a few days later, her husband David died, our friend. He had a thoracic aneurysm, which is common with men, tall men. They have an aneurysm in their intestines, or not their their thoracic region. And if you don't get it right away, you'll die. And he didn't take it as serious as he should have. And instead of calling an ambulance, they drove to the ER, but on the way to the ER, he died. So pray for Lisa. She's a wonderful woman and a friend. I've been too upset to call her. I want to call her, but I don't know what to say. What do you say to somebody that lost their sister and then lost their husband 3 or 4 days later? And I think everybody in that family has got the COVID, so I can't see her. I didn't go to his funeral. They had a funeral here in North Portland, but many of us were too afraid to go. And rightly so, because we're at the highest level for COVID here in Clackamas County, Eagle Creek, and Estacada. And yes, we have eagles. But I don't want to make this a real sad story. But I would like to share with my husband our experience about how we exchanged homes. And we bought a house here in Oregon, and they bought our house in San Diego. Actually, it was Ramona. And it was just the weirdest fluke ever, but we knew God was in control. But that's a real long story, but you might want to subscribe to my channel, and then when we do put that on there, you can watch it. And if you hit the bell icon, you can get a notification of that. I wanted to talk about good news, things that are happening. We're Christians, and I believe that the Lord is coming soon. There's signs all around that things are taking place here on earth that have never taken place before. Plus, we're going into a grand solar minimum, which is causing our weather pattern to go crazy. If you look up Adapt 2030, he's a very, very smart man, and he'll explain about the solar minimum and how it's a climate change that we have every 450 years. And it's causing, I know here in Oregon, when the sun gave out a solar flare the other day, it caused transformers in Eugene and Southern Oregon to explode. And then we had another transformer, a huge transformer here in Sandy, Oregon, that exploded and wiped out all the electrical grid there in Sandy. I don't know if they have it back, but it was a horrible time for them because it's freezing temperatures and starting to snow in some areas, in the higher areas of Sandy, just right up the road from us. We're at 700 feet, so we don't get snow. Hi, Kermit. Hello. I'm glad you're here. I have some good news to share with everybody. And I know we're in a storm. We're in a COVID storm. And from what I've read from professionals, a virologist, and Dr. Wohlberg in Germany, he said this is going to be around 11 years and that it is going to mutate and be more deadly. So with that, that good news, but you know, we're told that these things will happen in the end times. Hello, Shauna's Home Depot. Oh, I love your stuff, Shauna. Oh, you should check out Shauna's channel. And if you pray the rosary, yes, Kermit Frog, that's good. I like Shauna's home DIY crafts. You should see her decorations. I tried to get her to come over here, but you know, it's the COVID and it's too far. And I don't have the money to fly anybody here. But there's a phenomenon. My husband's a scientist. I married a rocket scientist. Yes, he's a genius. And he's into biomedical electronics engineering. He's a systems engineer for Motorola his whole life. He builds ER radio and 911 systems. And one of these days, I'll tell you what good he do. My husband had a 911 system he was testing down in the basement. And it was on these big racks. I've got pictures of it. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for telling. But our cat, Bitty Boo, used to love wires. Bitty Boo climbed in there and chewed the wire and killed all the 911 system in East County for several hours. Anyway, that was a huge fiasco. Bitty Boo was a naughty boy. He's in a box of ashes right there. I'm going to take him to Yosemite and dump him over the Glacier Peak. I love Yosemite. Please, please look on YouTube, Yosemite. Oh my goodness. And Happy New Year. We have a new year coming. We have a way of starting over, counting the days tonight. I saw Mariska in where is she? Deutschland. I just saw her live. She was talking about Happy New Year, and they were having fireworks. And we have some fireworks too. I think we'll let them off. We couldn't let any of our fireworks off. Yeah. And hi, Slam RN. Hey, Kermit, did you see that Lady of Fatima, the movie? Yeah, ask God to consecrate Russia to God. Yeah, that community. Yeah, I don't know. The plan of salvation, God's hands are tied. He cannot force one's will. And I think I shared with you, I was a deputy sheriff when I was young and foolish and skinny as a rail. And I saw things that no human should ever see. And I got PTSD from it. Flight 182 crashed, and I was supposed to go around and help secure the crime scene, meaning pick up bodies. It wasn't a good scene, and there were two other deputies that couldn't handle it, and they lost their lives because they couldn't handle the stress that brought. So part of my PTSD is from that, and a few other things. When I was a child, I had a horrendous childhood. And I told you my husband got me a piano on Valentine's Day. I've always wanted to play piano and learn how to read music, but I never did. When I was 4 years old was the first time I ever saw a piano, and the people that had the piano were watching me, and they let me play it, and I played softly and made up little songs, and I was thinking I was making this beautiful concert music. In my mind, I was. And I didn't bang. I've never banged on a piano. And by the way, when kids bang on my piano, I let them. You know why? It doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt. I have a Boston Steinway. It's a little cut above of a regular piano, but it's not a full Steinway. It would be $75,000 if it was a Steinway, but it's about half that price for Boston. No, my dogs don't have fleas. But my parents were very religious weirdos. My dad was a scam artist. The FBI had a dossier on him, believing that he murdered some women for money because he took their is it buffering? Oh dear. How about the audio? Is the audio okay? Should I sit like this? Then you'll see my freckles. Off and on. I'll have my husband check it out. I don't know where my mic is. Hello, Tennessee Volumes Gal. Are you in Tennessee, TN? I hope it's not buffering too much. What I have to share is worth sticking around. But anyway, I wanted to play the piano, and my parents could care less about what I wanted. And I used to cry and plead and beg, and everybody said, your daughter is gifted musician, music-wise, get her piano lessons. But that never happened, and I got bitter about it. And then when my son was almost 4 years old, and he got a hold of a keyboard, and he took right off. He was 6 years old when he was playing Prelude and Fugue in C major. I wished I had a video. I have a short video of him playing, but my son is musically gifted. Yeah, the communists and enemies. Yes, you are so right, Kermit. Our country is on a bad path. But you know what? You know who's in charge? Who do you think is in charge? God. He may have allowed what's happened, the president that we're going to be getting, because he wants to wrap up the effects of sin. Satan has done nothing but destroy God's precious creation. And he's brought us pain and physical pain and mental pain and suffering from the minute sin entered the world. And God cannot stop anybody. I like crime. I said I was a sheriff, and so I got interested in the Chris Watts case. And I was thinking, wow, why didn't God stop him? Why didn't God stop the person that kidnapped and raped me? I was a good girl. I didn't do anything wrong. But yes, it's a spiritual battle against evil. And God could not stop that man from hurting me. any more than he could stop Chris Watts from doing what he did. Please pray for the Rusiks. I am really, really sad that that horrible, horrible book has come out with lies and her theories and more hurtful things. And I'll tell you what, I know for a fact little Bella did not climb those steps. So that book is full of lies. Don't read it. Don't order it. Don't get it because it contains evil spirits. That's my belief. I may be off the wall, but anyway, had little, I did daycare for a number of years, and I know a 4-year-old can be incredibly strong, especially when their adrenaline takes over. So, little Bella would have fought like tooth and nail, knowing that Chris had a 40-pound dead weight Cece in one arm and climbing steep steps with Bella in the other hand. No, that did not happen. No way. That is a lie. I know for a fact she did not climb that stairs as what's written in the book. That is just to hurt the Rusiks. And I think whoever is doing things like that, God will take away his protection and bad things will happen to them. I don't know. Might be wishful thinking, but anyway, little Bella did not climb those steps as is written in the book because Chris would have had scratches all over his arms and little Bella would have ran. So please pray for the Rusiks as this horrible news goes out and people are believing the lies in that book and the lies of Chris Watts. I believe he is demon possessed. I really do. I have proof that he's demon possessed. Anyway, that's the bad news. And the good news is, like I said, my husband is a scientist, and he was a sonar tech, aka ping jockey in the Navy, and that is a sonar tech aboard a nuclear sub in Holy Loch, Scotland. My husband is part Scottish. He's a descendant of William Wallace, Braveheart. His grandpa's name was Wallace, and his brother and his dad all Wallace, William Wallace. But my husband didn't get that name. But he spent time in Scotland, 4 years on the submarine, and he would hear from Scotland, in the harbor there, he would hear the engine screws in New York City in the harbor. So that was interesting. And so he likes teaching, and he was a gifted teacher in intelligent design, proof that we are created and that we didn't just evolve. Let me get a flashlight because I want to read something here. Oh, my back is killing me. I have Ehlers-Danlos, which is a genetic disease, and your body slowly falls apart. Where the heck is my flashlight? I might have to turn the big light on. Just a second. Let me get it, because I want to read this. It's really very interesting. It's called, it's hard to find on the internet. It's called Dawn's Chorus. And it's the fact that Earth, and this is why flat Earth is wrong, is the Earth is round, people. And as it turns, when the sun rises, all around the world, the sun is always rising at dawn. It's dawn somewhere in the world. And Earth makes a noise. It makes a really strange noise right at the juncture where the sun begins to rise. I got a drone and I love taking videos of Mount Hood uh, and the sun rising and coming up. And in the springtime and in the fall, certain times of the year, there will be a shadow. When the sun is right up against Mount Hood, underneath or behind Mount Hood, and Mount Hood it's a volcano. It's 11,250 feet high, and it erupted recently within the last 1,000 years. So that's pretty recent geology-wise. Anyway, the sun will rise behind Mount Hood, and then it'll peak underneath the clouds, the bottom of the clouds, and it casts a shadow. That is really cool. I wish I could get the picture of that. But anyway, the sun is electric wave type of thing known that exists. Natural electronic waves with frequency affect the receiving apparatus, like the telegraph station. This is about telegraph. But they discovered that there is this low, regular, and almost musical in character sound. I like to think that it's the angels singing each dawn at sunrise all around the world. And this is not just a theory, this is a fact. And it's on the, I can leave a link, but it's real technical. Maybe I can get my husband to explain it one of these days. But like New Year's, it's the dawn of a new day. But actually, the day begins at sundown the night before. So like if we keep Sabbath from Friday night, sundown to the next night, Saturday night, sundown, and that is the seventh day. And the beginning of Sunday is Saturday night at sundown. So anyway, so we like to believe that the angels are singing all around the world as the sun dawns. And it's fresh and new every morning. Every single morning it's new and fresh as a new day. And I began, my son and began taking piano lessons, and he plays very, very well. And then we adopted a girl, and she sings professionally. She's been on television, and then she does advertising and stuff like that. So she's got a beautiful voice. And I used to have a nice voice, not really fabulous. And I used to take voice lessons from a guy, old man. He was 80 something years old, and he was in Loma Linda, California. His name was Steve Pearson. And he was Betty Grable's vocal teacher. And he said that I had talent. And so I began taking voice lessons from him. And you can notice that I have a raspy voice. That is from thyroid. I have Hashimoto's hypothyroid, and that's caused my hair to fall out, my hair to get frizzy. And I said something, used the word to describe a Black person's hair, and I really offended a lot of people, but I didn't know that was not a nice word, and I didn't mean to offend anybody, because I don't feel any race is superior, and I don't feel, but anyway, I was sorry that I said that. But my hair has just changed and fallen out because of my thyroid, Hashimoto's hypothyroid, and it makes you gain weight. You stay fat forever, no matter what you eat or don't eat. You still retain every ounce of fat. And so I sang in the Singing Christmas Tree, Portland Singing Christmas Tree. They have orchestra and about 450 people that sing. Our daughter had a solo in the Singing Christmas Tree. And there's usually 10 performances right before Thanksgiving and then after Thanksgiving. And there's about, 3,500 people in each audience, and this is a civic auditorium. So she was 9 when she had her first solo up on stage, and she's got a beautiful voice. And I never did this for myself. I never continued on with singing, and it's made me angry that I can't sing anymore. I was never given piano lessons, and it kind of ruins my joy for being angry. And one of my New Year's resolutions is to let go of that anger. My parents were bad, yes. I'm sure every one of us, we're human, didn't do things perfectly. I know I didn't. And I know my kids didn't. And my grandparents didn't. I loved my grandmother. My grandmother had me for the first 3 years of my life. So, and I'm going to talk about that too. But anyway, I need to get rid of that anger because I'm angry and bitter about not being given lessons. And my dearest friend Lolita Haas, she died December 16. My father-in-law died December 11 on his birthday, and Lolita died on the 16th of anaphylactic shock from latex. She went to a Christmas fair and got some kettle corn, and the kettle corn had been dished up with someone using latex glove. And I saw a cookie recipe. The gal has thousands and thousands of viewers or subscribers. And she says, I've got my latex gloves on and I'm making these cookies. And I went, oh dear God, no. So I wrote, please tell people not to use latex. Do not touch food with latex. That's what killed Lolita. And she's been my dearest friend since 1977. And her husband, Dan, has been my husband's dearest friend since 1977. We went to the same church down in San Diego. And we moved away because of the orphanage. We got death threats. We closed an orphanage down. That's another story. We were on TV. Everybody knew us. There's news stories about us. And somebody contacted me, or I contacted somebody. It's a professional production company, and they're going to do my life story and my book. I'm writing my book it's called On My Way Home and How God Protected Me. So the videos that I have will be coming out, will be done professionally. So it's going to be very, very different, and it's going to have a purpose, not just me whining. Oh, Tian, you have hypothyroid. Do you have Hashimoto's? I have to take Synthroid, and sometimes I don't absorb my Synthroid, so it causes me to have muscle weakness and feeling like ish all the time. I'm going to get my phone. Hold on a second. Look at that fire. Is that? You can't see it. Ooey. It's nice and hot, but I'm hot too. Literally. And I almost learned that song, Lo How Rose Are Blooming, and I'm going to have it ready maybe by next Sunday. And the production company's coming to my house to take videos and do a professional job. So, whew. Yeah, with thyroidism, you get hot. So I know a lot of you have had people that you love that have died of the COVID. Oh, I'm so sorry. Uh, I've lost loved ones, and I've almost lost my husband. He had oral cancer when he was 35 years old, doesn't smoke, drink, chew, he doesn't even cuss. And his parents blame me. That was horrible. On Christmas Day, they told me to my face what a horrible person I was, and they tried to pay my husband. They came up from San Diego, so on Christmas Day, they intended to take my husband back with them, and they were extremely angry when my husband refused to go home with them. My husband's mouth was full of canker sores from the radiation. He had to hang on to the table to swallow. He would have to put numbing stuff in his mouth just to make it through the hours or to eat because he was so, oh, let me put up another piece of wood on there. So my in-laws told me on Christmas Day what a horrible person I was. They tried to pay my husband money enough to, they're not wealthy, but they're not poor. They were quite well-to-do, I'd say. But their plans didn't go as they wanted. And so that was a very sad memory. Christmas Day, 1985, when my husband was so sick and in so much pain. But the children we adopted were not accepted as their grandkids. They had one granddaughter, and the kids that we adopted and my son, because he wasn't blood, they wouldn't accept him. So that was really painful. And so Christmas has a very sad time, is a very sad time. Let's see. I'm trying to find that. So I've had to forgive them. But here's that shadow on the clouds. See, that's Mount Hood with the sunrise behind it going up. I've seen that only 2 or 3 times. We moved here to Oregon in 1984, Christmas Eve, 1984. We pulled into our house that we had traded with. That is the weirdest story. You will not believe it, but we will tell that one of these days. My husband will sit and tell it with me. So I have had to forgive them because their hate and meanness, it really affected me. And my husband, oh, is Angela here? I've been worried about Angela critters. I called you a couple of times. Are you feeling okay? Angela's having a hard time. A lot of you are having a hard time, I know. And yes. Anyway, get that going. We have 2 wood stove inserts sometimes we need it. We have a big house, and like I said, it's old. But I was going to talk about, how the Ruseks said on Dr. Phil's show that Shanann kind of came to her, and as did the little girls. But if you read the Bible says that when you're dead, the dead know not anything, that we sleep in our graves. But then I had something happen years ago that really puzzled me. And I wrote this on a blog, and it says, I'm a Bible-believing Christian and believe when we die, our souls sleep until the Lord comes. I have lots of verses about the state of the dead. And those spirits that come back and talk and stuff, like Chad Daybell and Chris Watts are talking to, those are demons. The Bible proves it. Anyway, my grandmother, my father married my mom, who is Mexican. She was Ruth Hernandez. And my grandpa was Moses and Teresa Hernandez. My grandfather's very tall, Mexican, good-looking, hardworking, hardest working man you'll ever have run across. He owned the Van Nuys Quality Dairy there in Van Nuys. They were quite wealthy, but he worked. I never remember my grandpa taking a minute off. He was just working all the time. And when you own, he had 1,000 cows. And so Bob, I like to refer to as my biological donor. I don't think he doesn't deserve father. He never loved me. He just beat me. And he told me he hated me. And several times he told me to kill myself. And he did that to me when my husband's cancer. It looked like my husband was going to die. And Bob called me and he says, oh, you need to go have a head-on with a logging truck for the good of the family. Nobody can stand you. And I got in my car and I intended to do that because I was so hurt. I had 3 kids that we adopted 2 of them. And then my son was a product of me partying with Alice Cooper, and I was raped. But not by Alice Cooper, but one of his thugs. Anyway, I kept my baby. And so I was always called names because I had a baby out of wedlock. So backing up to when Bob met my mom in college, my mom was very smart. My dad was very, very, very smart. But he was a few chromosomes short of a I don't know, prion. I know that doesn't make sense, but anyway, my mother was beautiful. She had jet black hair and porcelain skin, and her mom was Miss Oxnard. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman, and she married my grandpa, and my mom was the oldest, and then she had several brothers who were dark. They really looked Mexican. But let me put that up there. I need to get a moderator. I don't know how to make moderator. Anyway, Bob married my mom for the sole purpose of, he saw my mom as his meal ticket. Bob never liked me. He never held a job. He just went from one crime scene to another. We moved every year. But as soon as he found out my mom was pregnant with me, she was 3 months along when she told him, he left her. And that was in the dairy on Artesia Boulevard in Artesia, California, in Los Angeles. And my mom was just heartbroken because she was in love with Bob. And Bob hitchhiked to Fort Myers, Florida, where his family lived, and they were white trash. My dad, Bob, had 17 brothers and sisters. 5 of them were adopted out, so 12 of them were left. And one of them molested me in a worse way. But anyway, my mom went after Bob. After I was born, she was alone when she had me, and she left me with my grandmother and grandfather there on the dairy, and my mom took off for Florida. And then she came back and got me because she wanted Bob to be a father. And so I was just under a year old. I don't know how old I was, but anyway, she took a train to Florida, and then when she got there, Bob says, no kids, get rid of her, I'm not. And my mom was so in love with Bob. So they went to take me back home, and they ran out of money, and that's when we spent the night in jail. That's one of my stories. I'm still in diapers, and I spent the night in jail. Spent several nights until my grandparents sent money so they can travel and take me back home. So my grandmother spoke Spanish, so I don't know. Yeah, I spoke Spanish and English and hillbilly. I had a funny, they called me the little Florida cracker, which I know is a derogative remark these days, but that's what I grew up being called because of my silly accent. And anyway, I love my grandmother. My grandmother was very loving to me. And when I was 3 years old, my mom came back and decided, or three, and I was almost 4 when my mom came back to pick me up there at the dairy. And my grandmother just wept, pleaded and begged with my mom to let her adopt me. And my mom needed me. She needed to use me as to get Bob to be a family man. And so I didn't have my vaccinations till I was 4, and I had a really bad reaction to them. And I woke up in the middle of the night. My mom was at work, and Bob was down the street playing cards, so I was all alone, and I was wandering around the neighborhood. You know, here I was, 4 years old. Bee, sting me, and it felt like a bee. I had a huge abscess where I had gotten my injection. So they took me to the ER, and there's my mom there. Where's Bob? Oh, here's your little girl all alone. So I was left alone a lot, and I missed my grandmother because she loved me so much. And my grandmother was just heartbroken, and it broke my grandmother, just broke her heart. And my mom says, well, why don't you have a child of your own? Therefore, my Aunt Denise, you owe me. My Aunt Denise, she's a very smart woman. I'm older than her. And her husband was police commander, Palm Springs PD. Anyway, and she's got a master's in nursing. They're LDS, and they have a very large, loving family. And Denise took care of my grandmother when she got older in Palm Springs. And I'm making this too long, I know, but my grandmother had Denise because she missed having me. She was so heartbroken. And so imagine that bond that I had with my grandmother was very, very strong. So a couple of years, about 10 years ago, my granddaughter, Madison, let's see, she was 8, 6 or 7, and we drove down there to go see my grandparents. We always took our granddaughter everywhere. And we went to go see my grandma and Denise and Aunt Denise in Palm Springs. And I hugged my grandma. I says, Grandma, I love you so much. And she says, honey, this is probably the last time you're going to see each other. She says, I'm old, face the facts, I'm going to die. And my grandmother begged, pleaded, and sobbed, said she would miss me, and that she really loved me like her own daughter. And so I know that bond was very, very strong, stronger than my mom. And then January, about 12, 14 years ago, it was 1:15 in the morning. I was sound asleep. My husband was sound asleep. It was dark. And I heard my grandmother say, Cheryl. Otis, Otis. Oh gosh, I hate that dog. Anyway, it sounded like my grandmother was just right behind me. Stop it, Otis. Calling my name. And I sat up in bed and I told my husband, what time is it? He says, I think it's like 1:17. So it took us about a minute or two to get the light on. Hey, shut up. Mary. So I says, I think my grandma just died. And my husband said, I didn't hear the phone ring. I said, no, I heard my grandma go, Cheryl. Otis. Calling me. And here I am in Oregon, and she's in Palm Springs. And I told my husband, I said, it was clear as day. And I wondered, why did that happen? I wasn't dreaming. And I refused to believe that it was a dream. I told my husband, I think my grandma just died. I know my grandma just died. And I knew, and I had zero doubt that it was my grandmother. And I knew that she was gone. In that same aspect is how the Ruseks knew that Shanann was, something had happened, even though it was thousands of miles. And my husband's been reading about this. Anyway, I went back to sleep. I cried and I went back to sleep. And then I called Denise at 7 in the morning. And I said, Denise, and she says, how did you know? I says, Grandma called me. He said, Cheryl. She says, she called your name when she died at 1:15 in the morning. That's strange. She confirmed it. My mom was upset that I knew before she knew. And my mom called me crying, my mom died. I says, I know. But, you know, the Bible says that the dead are asleep and they know not anything. They don't praise the Lord and they have no thoughts. And so for several years, I grappled with what happened. And I didn't share with others except for my husband and my mom. And then we believe the Bible truth, you know, says. And so my husband started researching about, have you ever been with somebody that you have and you've loved for a long time? And you're thinking about, maybe your husband's driving and you're thinking about having a steak or something. Your husband says, man, I'm hungry for a steak. And you're thinking, what? How did he read my thoughts? Or in the olden days, those of you that are, you know, my age, I'm 60, I'm going to be 69 in 2 weeks. And when you call, in the olden days, when we call, we dial, we had a rotary dial once upon a time, or the ones that you press the numbers, and you call the number and the line would be busy. And then they were trying to call you and you were calling them. And that happens so many times. It's not a coincidence. It's just a phenomenon that our brains. So my husband got into thinking about more and more and more and studying it. And he learned that there's been some studies and some breakthroughs in what is done with it, what causes this. Our brains are like radio waves. My husband, like I said, he's a systems engineer. He does radio stuff and antennas. In fact, he has some patents and inventions that are manufactured and sold worldwide, and it made us really poor. Anyway, it's given us a comfortable living. His inventions, Motorola helped patent him. But anyway, it's a communication. And he says, we don't know how the brain is electrical and how your thought can be teletransported, across the United States or around the world. And then how about when we pray to God? The minute we pray to God, he hears us and he answers. And how far away is God? We're heaven. And the angel, it's instantaneously. He doesn't have to fly and fly and fly and be there, weeks later to answer our prayers. But when we call him, he will answer. No matter what. And I believe every prayer is heard and every prayer is answered. But that doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. That means God maybe has said no, wait, yes, not now. But it's never God saying, I don't know. He always answers, but it's not always the way that we want. And it's called, anyway, there's an article that came out. It's called Quantum Physics. I know, blah, blah, blah. I can, about entangled electron particles, studies by Bell Labs proving that connected particles communicate no matter how far apart they are. When one is touched, the other reacts. So it could be millions of miles away. When that particle is touched, the other one reacts no matter how far the distance. And now they are using it as a way for communications that cannot be blocked or altered. And the Chinese are now communicating important stuff this way. So it's called, I'll read it again. Let's see. There was an article called Quantum Physics about entangled electron particles, studies by Bell Labs proving that connected particles communicate no matter how far apart they are. When one is touched, the other reacts. And that's my husband's life passion in the communication field and doing research, reading, and studying. And our brains send out radio signals. That's not just a theory, that's a fact. And we haven't learned yet just how strong the brain is. Have you ever had a feeling, a gut feeling? That gut feeling is also, they say there's another brain in your gut. I know it's kind of crazy, but I like reading some science, but I don't have the brains to really let it sink in. Let's see. Like I said, when you're one, your own little world, and a thought comes into the mind, something like eating your favorite fast food, but it's not dinner, supper time. You're miles away from anywhere, and you blurt out your loved one's thoughts. Let's eat at, and they say, yeah, I was thinking just that. So that is called entangled electron particles. And this was written 10 years ago. And now, today, this is how the new communications are. And this is how the Chinese are communicating. And it's impossible to break into this and read what they have, what their studies are. Anyway, I'm not saying it's going to be a wonderful, rosy, upcoming new year. It may get worse. It may be even crazier because the COVID is mutating. But we have to remember one thing: God is still in charge. He has our back. He wants each and every one of you to be saved and to have eternal life. And all we have to do is call on him, accept him as our Lord. And that's the good news. Let go of the bad stuff. I know sometimes grief, death, losing a loved one, how can you let go? And I think of the Ruseks and the Barry Morphew's girls, her brother and loved ones, and then others that have been touched by evil. There's no answer for that. And I don't think one can ever get over that. But God, the Bible, everybody says, well, God won't give you more than you can handle. Did you know the Bible doesn't say that? Did you think the Bible said that? It doesn't. It says when you're getting given trials, God will make a way for you to handle it. It doesn't say he won't give you more than you can handle, because he does not give that to you. He doesn't. But when you do have something happen, he will provide a way for us to handle it. And he will provide you a way to handle the New Year's, what's ahead, the COVID. I don't know what's going to happen. My husband has battled oral cancer so bad it's left him almost speechless. He chokes at every meal. We've had to almost call 911 several times because he chokes so bad. They rebuilt his tongue with his leg muscle and tissue. And yes, he's got hair on his tongue. He shaves his tongue. He has a serious speech impediment. And he doesn't have any feeling in his mouth. He doesn't have any taste buds. And his whole mouth is numb. And when he swallows, sometimes the food goes down the wrong pipe and he chokes and chokes. And it's really hard to eat with him. So we don't eat out hardly ever. And one of these days, and his doctor said, this is how he loses patients, is they die from choking to death. So Larry's 71, 72. I'm going to be 69. Both of us are in poor health. And I don't know what's going to happen. But I know when I close my eyes in death, I have the hope, because our journey on earth is just a nanosecond of time compared to eternal life. And he promised that he would give us eternal life, and that's why he died on the cross. And that's the good news. That's the hope we must hang on to, especially when we see our loved ones die or divorces. We have some dear friends. They're a young couple. They're dealing with, come join me. They're dealing with, here's my husband. Come sit down by me. Come sit by me. And, what is the divorce rate is what, 85, 75% now. And you cold?
No, it's chicken neck.
Chicken neck. I was telling him about your oral cancer and your battle. But I think I'm going to end this stream now. And then I want my husband to come on. Would you be willing to tell about your journey with oral cancer? I'll help you.
It's too negative. It's really negative.
Well, I mean, but you can give people hope who are dealing. The oral cancer rate is at an all-time high, and young people are getting it. If you have a little white spot on your tongue, go to your dentist immediately. He's my genius. He's my ping jockey. He's my silver fox. He's got a big nose, but he's got a brave heart. He's got a good heart. Oh, stop that. He got me a drone for Christmas. I had a drone, but he got me a better drone. I got a Mavic Air 2, even has night vision. Ooh, we can stalk on the neighbors. I flew it past the neighbor's house into the area. Oh, there's somebody who wants to say hi. Come here. Oh, Liberace wants to say hi. Oh, wait, that's not Liberace. Felix, the cat. The wonderful, and Bugsy's outside. Anyway, yeah, you know what's causing oral cancer and other types of nasal. I met a young guy that he had nasal cancer too. And tongue cancer and oral cancer is off the charts. I think I'll ask Dr. Flays to join me. We'll have him come over. And they live in Hermiston. If you'll see my stories about Binkies, little animal, little Shih Tzu, and how God answered a dying woman's prayer. Anyway, he's an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he was really good friends with my husband's ear, nose, and throat doctor, Dr. Peter Anderson up at OHSU. But they said that the oral cancer is just off the charts, and more young people in their 30s, 40s are getting tongue cancer, oral cancer, caused from the HPV virus. What they say, 80% of the human population has the HPV virus. So, if you got a little tiny white spot on your tongue, go to the doctor immediately. Go to your ear, nose, and throat doctor. And if your doctor says, it's nothing, kick him in the shins and go elsewhere, because that's what happened to my husband. The doctor said, it's nothing. You don't smoke, drink, or chew. And our regular doctor was out on vacation. So this idiot doctor let my husband's sore fester, and it was the size of a grape after several months. Anyway, God bless you.
Wait a minute, somebody's asking.
Oh,
Kermit Frog.
yeah.
He says he wants to know what the best ham radio is.
Ooh.
I'm thinking of getting one in case the cellular communication goes down.
Yes, we both have our ham radios. Kermit, have you seen Larry's Ham Shack and all his radio stuff? You can find them used. Oh, our neighbor has one for sale.
A ham radio?
Yeah.
Well, a ham radio is not just one kind of radio. There's all. Probably the you have to get your ham license.
It's easy.
It's yeah. If your memory is working at all, you can get your ham license. Let's say I need something for my mouth.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Just stand up for a second.
Go ahead and you talk. I'll get some.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, he has some salivary glands that go crazy and cause him to drool. The drool. I married the drooler. The drooler. We have to laugh about these kind of things, or else we'll cry. But we both have our ham radio. Larry's got his big.
Right. Do you want me to talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah. Okay, I'll step away and I'll let you talk about that. Get your ham radio license, everybody, because they're grid may go down.
Okay, now this has a microphone, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, here. Well, this is really up close and personal. Okay. Um,
If you don't understand it, you feel free to ask a second time. We understand.
okay. Here's the deal. Ham radio is also called amateur radio, um, and you have to have a license. All right. So the license is not that difficult. Um, it's uh, the first license you get is called a technician license, and what that it does is um, you're allowed to operate on what's called VHF and UHF frequencies. All right, so those are ham radio. They're called repeaters. Um, what a repeater is you transmit on like a little handheld radio. You transmit on one channel. It goes up to the top of a mountain where there's a repeater. It hears you, and it turns around and rebroadcasts your voice on a different channel with really high power. So it's just as if you're on top of a really tall mountain running a lot of power. So it really reaches out. So even though you have just a tiny radio in your hand on VHF or UHF, you'll be broadcasting with high power from a mountaintop. And that's really cool. So it allows you to talk hundreds of miles, uh, maybe a radius of about 100 miles in all directions. So it's pretty good. And it depends on what the repeater is. Some repeaters are not on real tall mountains. I have a repeater. It's up on Goat Mountain, which is about 15 miles from here, and it's up at 4,000 feet. So when I talk on my little portable two-way radio, the repeater hears me and rebroadcasts my voice 100-mile radius in all directions. It's really awesome. And a lot of people have their licenses, and a lot of people listen to the repeaters. So you can usually find somebody or find help. And this bypasses the telephone system. There's no, you're not dependent. Um, you're not dependent on uh, uh, the telephone lines working or even the grid working. Most repeaters are on backup power, so if the grid goes down, they'll keep working for a long time. So this is all a good news situation. So if cellular goes down and you have a VHF or a UHF ham radio, they'll allow you to continue to communicate with other people and get help if you need it. A lot of times the 911 centers, I mean, the actual police centers themselves have VHF or UHF radios as well, so that you can actually reach help more directly if there's an emergency. Um, there's another part of ham radio, but it requires a higher license. And there's actually two licenses. One's called general license, and the other one's called an extra license. Really, you have most of your abilities with a general license. And what that does, it allows you to broadcast on shortwave radio. And that's what a lot of times people think of when they think of ham radio, is shortwave. And I have a shortwave radio here, and I have a high power transmitter and an antenna system strung up in the trees. And so that allows me, depending on conditions, to talk completely around the world. And that's, I mean, seriously, talk all the way around the globe. But that's not all the time and under any conditions. Because the radio waves have to bounce off the ionosphere. They bounce back and forth. and it'll get you around the world that way. And it's not. It depends on the time of day or night. So, for instance, every Sunday morning at 7:30 on Pacific time, I belong to a network, so I get on my shortwave radio, and we have this. We have a meeting. We actually have a ham radio meeting on the radio for an hour, and we have a person who leads out, so that they control the action. And what we do is we talk about whatever we want to talk about, and I talk about all kinds of things, and other people do too. And these other people, I mean, some of these people are pretty high up and important people. So you get become friends with a whole different layer of society that otherwise you might not even really even know exists. Yet
It's
you
not
get,
like a CB radio.
no, no, it's not like CB at all.
Hot mama.
Uh, CB is just trash compared to this. With CB, I'll give you an example. With CB radio, you can legally
Citizens band.
CB is Citizens Band. CB radio, be it a mobile in your car or a base station or a portable radio. With CB, you're allowed only 4 watts of power. 4 watts, okay? And so you can only talk, what, maybe 15 miles, 20 miles, right? With my shortwave ham radio, I can talk on shortwave as well. By the way, CB is on shortwave, but it's only 40 channels. With ham radio on shortwave, with a general class license, there's thousands and thousands of channels. And they're all up and down the shortwave band. So you can talk, some bands work long distance during the day, some work long distance during the night. So it really varies. So you've got a lot of possibilities, just lots. So we'll talk, I'll talk with my friends, and they're located all the way from Nevada, California, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Washington, and even British Columbia. And we'll be sitting there talking to each other just like I'm talking with you. And so it's a lot of fun, but it's more than just that. Because if there's an emergency, if the grid goes down, or if cellular stops working, or the telephone system is compromised, or it's turned off by the government or something, this will give you an option to communicate with others, get help if there's an emergency, or to get some feedback, or get somebody else to help you that's in a distant city.
And we're part of a network of emergency people, and we're urging all doctors and medical people to get their ham radio, and they have. A lot of our doctor friends have ham radio license, because we're in a grand solar minimum and our sun is misbehaving. And if it does, remember that if you look the year without a summer in England, where it snowed in the summer, we're going to have the same thing. I think that was the Maunder minimum. And if we have the same thing, they think that we're going patterning after the Maunder minimum. And every time they have virus, empires fail, people die, and we have no way of feeding people. And we get into a little mini ice age, like they did in the 1600s, when they had frost spares on the Baltic Sea, because the Baltic Sea stayed frozen over on the edges, and the Thames River stayed frozen for several years. And this all happened during a grand solar minimum, and that's where we are. Solar minimum means a minimum amount of solar flares. And then when the Earth communicates with the sun, as it does, it'll send an electromagnetic pulse that could take down the grid.
Can I go ahead and tell?
Yeah.
I want to give you an idea of what it takes to get your ham license and how much a radio will cost. All right, you're really limited by your pocketbook and your imagination. So But anyway, to get your technician class license, go online to the ARRL.net, ARRL.net. And on that website, that's the National Ham Radio network website. Go to ARRL.net, and they actually have the test that you need to take for your license. They actually have the test on the site. You can download the test. The difference is that for every question that will be on the test is pulled from a pool of 6 questions. So it's just multiple choice. So you pull down the test, and you go down and you memorize or you look at each question, and they show you what the right answer is. So you get the right answer. So when you go to the test, all you have to do is you recognize the question, and then you recognize the right answer. So that's why your memory has to be at least good enough to be able to remember stuff, to a certain extent.
In the class that I took, I got my license?
You have your technician license.
The kids were 8 years old, and they were getting all 100% of the questions right. And I was sitting there crying.
Well, the kids nowadays, I mean, they were born into this type stuff, so it comes more naturally for them. For those of us who have one foot in the grave, it's a little more difficult. Anyway, you go there, you download the test, you memorize the answers to the questions for the technician license. There's no cost involved in that. And then on that same website, they also have a list of where you can go and when to get your license. And so for us, I mean, it's probably not that anymore. I haven't looked lately. But we went to a pizza place on one Sunday a month. You go to this pizza place nearby here, and they have people there that will administer the test. And you find out right on the spot if you pass the test. So you go there, you pay $15, you bring a calculator and a pencil and some ID, and they'll register you. You sit down right there on the spot. You take the test, 35 questions, multiple choice, and then they'll correct it right there on the spot. You find out if you passed. If you passed, you've got your technician license. They'll send the FCC will send you the license in the mail in about 2 weeks maximum, and you got your license. Then you need a radio. So with your technician license, you can buy a VHF/UHF portable radio, one that's handheld, all right? And the cost for a brand new radio that does it all, the cost is probably somewhere between $100 and $200. So if you have $150, that's plenty.
You buy.
Yeah, you buy used one, but why buy used one if you buy a brand new one that's got a guarantee and has all the instructions? And then you learn how to use the radio. You'll be able to switch around from one repeater to another and join in on the conversation or ask for help or become friends with these people. It's really awesome. It really is. People that are preparing for the grid going down, the preppers, believe me, they all have their ham radio license. They know how valuable that will be if the grid goes down or if the cellular stops working. Yes, Kermit says that China and others may go after our grid.
Yes.
So
they've been trying to take our grid down for years. And if you look up in 1859 when the Carrington event happened, when we had an EMP from the sun, if that happened today, what would happen?
Yeah. So now, by the way, When you take your technician class license, if you pass it, they'll ask you right on the spot, do you want to take your general class license? And so if you also studied for your general class license, if you memorize those questions for the general class, and you get that off the arrl.net website as well, you can take it right there and pass you can get your general class license in one night. The thing is that you have to have a pretty good memory. If you have a photographic memory, you got it made. I don't have a photographic memory. I actually have to learn it the hard way. I have to, you know.
Oh, you're a genius.
Well, genius. So, take your technician class license. If you're prepared, take your general class license right there on the spot. Get your general class license. Then you can talk on shortwave as well. Now that's going to be a different kind of radio. It's going to be a shortwave ham radio. Where do you buy it? Well, you go online to hamradio.com. That's ham radio outlet. And I see Cheryl is sending you some text too.
Yeah. We should go inside your ham shack and do a little live from there. You want us to do that?
Yeah, maybe tomorrow or something on New Year's.
Tonight's New Year's.
Let's not do that tonight. That's more than I can handle.
We're getting old.
Yeah, we're getting old, decrepit.
Does that sound fun, Kermit?
Yeah, you guys, that would be, if you don't have your license, what's it going to cost you? $15 and some time to download and read the questions. Is that too much? $15? Get your license. Once you have your license, you can buy a used radio. You can buy a used ham radio for $50. So we're not talking about big bucks, but there are if you're on the shortwave end of it, if you want to buy a really nice, a good shortwave ham radio, you're going to spend about a minimum for a good one, about $500, right? So it's going to be more money. You might find something used online for less, but to get a really quality, a high quality mobile shortwave ham radio, one that you can use in your house or your car, you're looking at $500 to $1,000. The limitation is it's like buying cars. You can buy a cheap car or you can buy an expensive car.
And I bought you an antenna system.
Oh, she bought me remember I said that CB, you could only transmit 4 watts of power? On shortwave with ham radio, you can transmit 1,500 watts. 4 watts for CB, 1,500 watts on ham radio shortwave. Big difference. That's why you can talk around the world with it. It's just awesome. So yeah, we'll go out to my ham shack. Let's do that tomorrow. And am I drooling?
Yeah.
I hate that. I'm
the cancer.
Yeah, I don't have the cancer now, but I have the after effects, which is fun. But it beats the alternative. All right, that's my speech on ham radio. The thing is, you can't afford not to have that license. You really can't afford not to have it. And that's really true.
Yeah, like the Carrington event that happened in 1859. If we had the same level, it will wipe out all our communication satellites.
Yeah, the satellite networks get knocked out real easy. The Chinese have killer satellites to take out our satellites. So, yeah, you really can't afford not to have your ham license. It'll give you the chance to communicate and talk to where you need to talk to and to get help. There's the AWRL.net website. You can buy it's called a repeater license book, and it has a listing of every repeater in the United States.
And you have a repeater.
And my repeater is in there and listed in there as well. tens of thousands of them all over the place.
But you don't need it. Are there what? How much are they? About $40,000 for a repeater.
Oh, you don't want to, no, I mean, unless you're highly technical, you don't want to buy a repeater. That's a lot of, you have to know the right people. You got to pay a monthly repeater fee. Um, you have to have antennas are expensive. So that's a whole different ballgame.
How much was your antenna that I got you?
Oh, well, the antenna for here, for shortwave, was about $150.
Oh,
So the antenna is for shortwave. Yeah, I mean, you can use a piece of wire, but then you need an antenna tuner.
or a tower.
Oh, well, like I said, the limitation is your pocketbook and your imagination. All right. Kermit's asking, it says, what's good? What's a good one for me? I have the money. Well, how much? Okay, Kermit, how much money do you got?
Don't tell him.
No. Okay, a really high quality VHF, UHF portable radio that you can talk on the repeaters. A top end one, $250, $250.
What I got you a Yaesu.
Yeah, you got me one. I don't have that one anymore. I got him.
Like $500, $600, $700.
Oh no.
The
Not
how much
anymore.
is the guy across the street? He's selling his Yaesu.
Yeah, but that's a shortwave.
Oh.
And that's an old shortwave. It's a classic. But some people pay more money for the classics. You know, it's like buying a '57 Chevy wagon. You know, it's going to cost you, but it's not new. It's old. So, but you buy you want to buy a new radio that has digital capability.
Ask him what time tomorrow would be a good time for him.
Oh, what time would be a good time tomorrow for Pacific time? What time would be good for you guys? Brands? You're talking about brands. Yeah. I would stick with probably what I like is Yaesu, Yaesu. That's a good brand. Kenwood is a good brand. There's actually several really good brands out there that are very much in competition with each other. All right. So when you get on, if you go to hamradio.com, you'll see all the different radios for sale in there. It's all different manufacturers. Most of them are Japanese or even Chinese. A good yeah. Oh, in the Kermit says in the afternoon. Okay, what time in the afternoon? After lunch, but about 2 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon Pacific time.
We'll go live from their ham shack.
Cheryl says we're going to go live from the ham shack. Does that sound good? I'm not seeing anybody saying anything yet. Maybe we're off the subject too far here. Okay. Yep. Yes, great. Okay, 2 o'clock. So Cheryl, you have to remember that 2 p.m. on 2 p.m. tomorrow. Okay. And anybody else that's on there, please join us, and I'll show you what I have and what I can do with it, and it will be fun.
Tell them what you do for a living. We did for a living.
Oh, for a living, I was an engineer for Motorola. Yeah, yes, Pacific time. I was an engineer for Motorola. I designed public safety radio systems for 39 years. And then I retired. They hired me back a month later, so I worked for them for another 4.5 years. And that brings us up to this last February. And because of COVID, they didn't hire me back as a contractor. So I'm now under contract, a small contract, with a public safety radio system here in my area. So I'm working for for the county now on contract. Very good. That's all I need to or can share right now. I'm hungry.
Thank you all for joining.
All right.
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you, and thank you for putting up with me and Cheryl.
My old man, I call him my curmudgeon.
I don't know if I like that name. But all right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bless you all.